and welcome to my talk today called Wildlife, in which I'll be talking about the career experience I've had in the 11 years since I graduated high school working with animals in the conservation field. It's my goal to leave you a little more educated about these fields and to give you some resources to begin thinking about a career working with animals if that's something you're interested in. My name is Bleecker. A little bit about my background. I'm from Bloomington, Indiana, about an hour south of Indianapolis, where I was a very proud member of the Bloomington High School North Science Olympiad team from 2006 to 2010. My events were food science, environmental chemistry, right stuff, and occasionally herpetology. My team was fortunate enough to make it to the national tournament for all 4 years of my high school career, and I still have many friends today that I competed alongside as a high schooler. I majored in biology at the University of Chicago and afterwards pursued a career in zookeeping and animal care, which took me around the country. In 2018, I received a Fulbright scholarship to study wild animal biology at London Zoo and the Royal Veterinary College. It's my goal in this talk to give you an overview of the kinds of careers that are available to you as a scientist interested in working with animals at this point in your life. The career areas I'll be touching on today are research, veterinary science, and animal care. All of these areas can be part of conservation, a field that encompasses these career areas and more. There are many other important conservation jobs like policy work and education, but these are the areas I personally have experience with and can tell you about today. The good news for those of us who have interests in many or all of these areas is there's a huge amount of overlap between each of these. For example, a zoo requires animal keepers and veterinarians. Many also have research facilities where researchers can do work on everything from animal reproduction to developing new field techniques to animal behavior and welfare. Zoos are also important partners in conservation efforts, from breeding endangered species that are reintroduced into the wild to providing manpower that supports conservation organizations in the field. Let's first talk about research. What kinds of questions can you help the world answer in a research career? Well, first it's important to know that you can cross animal research with any of the other career areas we're talking about today. You can ask questions related to veterinary science, you can ask questions related to animal care, or you can ask conservation questions. There are so many other areas for animal-related research too, including wildlife biology, animal welfare, and evolution. There are animal researchers working at universities, zoos, conservation organizations, and in government. In order to run your own research projects, you need a master's degree, or more likely, a PhD. Most animal researchers get a college degree in biology, or sometimes another related subject like psychology. Then they eventually go on to earn a master's degree and a PhD in a more specific area of their choice. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of going into a research career. Of course, these will be different for everyone, but here are some of the positives and negatives from my point of view. Some great things about going into research are the flexibility of being allowed to answer questions that interest you, to work alongside others with similar questions and interests, and the opportunity to travel in order to gather the data you need for your research project and present your research at conferences. These are experiences that can be really hard to get in other fields. Lots of people really love research, but there are difficult things about going into a research career too. Getting into the field requires a lot of school. 4 years of college on top of most likely 5 to 7 years of graduate school. Then, many researchers go on to work one or more temporary jobs open to new PhD graduates called postdocs. These jobs can be at universities or other organizations. That's not exciting to everyone, and if it's not for you, I know many people with PhDs that would tell you to choose another path because it can be hard enough even for people who love school. Even once you graduate with a PhD, finding somewhere to work can be hard. It's getting harder and harder every year, unfortunately, to find a good position as a professor or a researcher. Working a research career usually means a lot of moving around. Moving for different schools, for postdocs after you graduate, and then to eventually where you find a job. This can make it difficult to feel settled, to stay in relationships, and even to make lasting friendships. The pay is also not always great, especially in graduate school, though it can improve if and when you find a permanent job, depending on what it is that you do. Now let's talk about a career in veterinary medicine. Of course, you probably already know that you can be a doctor of veterinary medicine or a vet, but if you're interested in the veterinary field, you might also consider being a veterinary technician. You might have noticed if you have a pet that when you take them to the vet, you of course see the doctor, but you also see people who are like nurses for animals. They can do everything from drawing blood to talking to your family to even assisting the vet with surgery. These are vet techs, and they are just as important as the vets themselves. Vets and vet techs can work in many different settings. They can specialize in dogs and cats, in smaller animals like reptiles, birds, and rodents, in livestock, and in exotic animals like those found in zoos. In the US, vets typically major in applied animal areas like animal science or in broader scientific areas like biology or chemistry. After their undergraduate degree, they apply to vet school. Vet school takes 4 additional years. After graduating, many new vets decide to pursue an additional year of specialty training as an intern or 2 to 5 years for a residency that allows them to practice in a specialized area, like neurology or zoo medicine. Vet techs usually have a different path through school. Becoming a vet tech requires a usually 2-year associate's degree in veterinary technology, which can be completed instead of or in addition to a 4-year college degree. After completing their degree, aspiring vet techs must apply for certification and take an exam administered by the state. After that, they are free to practice as a vet tech at a private practice, zoo, or animal shelter. Veterinary medicine can be a rewarding career for many reasons. Close contact with animals, the opportunity to help heal the sick, the professional interest in medical cases, and high demand in employment, especially in domestic animal practice. Vets can also find certain aspects of their career challenging. Firstly, it is difficult to get accepted to a veterinary school, though the picture is different for vet techs. In fact, it's actually harder to get into vet school than it is to get into medical school because there are fewer veterinary schools in the country than there are medical schools. The pay is poor for vets and vet techs in comparison to similar jobs for humans, like doctors and nurses, though the pay is better than many other careers working with animals. Animals often come to the vet with serious illnesses or injuries for which there is no cure, often requiring euthanasia. Owners, feeling desperate about their animals, can take out their frustration on the veterinary team, leading sometimes to low morale. Hours are also often long and grueling, especially in emergency practice. Let's move on to animal care. There are many contexts in which you can take care of animals, like animal shelters, wild animal rescues, and animal hospitals. I'll be focusing on zoos and zookeeping, which is where most of my animal care experience has been. A zookeeper is in charge of the well-being of zoo animals. A typical day could involve letting animals outside in the morning, cleaning and disinfecting their areas, preparing and giving out their food and medications, training them to present different parts of their body to the vet for the next time they have an exam, and providing enrichment or interesting changes to their day to keep their minds stimulated. Though zookeeping used to be a career people could enter right after high school, today it is difficult to find a job in the field without a bachelor's degree, usually in biology, animal science, zoology, or some related subject. If you might be interested in entering the field, it is a good idea to try and find an internship at a zoo for at least one summer while you're in college. Unfortunately, though, many of these internships are unpaid, though some are not, and some aren't paid but may offer free housing, which might make the internship a little bit easier for you to afford. It's also not a bad idea to volunteer at a local zoo during college or even before to get into the field. With any luck with this experience, you might be able to get hired as a full-time zookeeper right when you leave college. However, zookeeper jobs are very competitive, and so you may need to do more internships or some seasonal keeper jobs before getting hired on somewhere full-time. For the right kind of person, being a zookeeper is a very fun job. You get to work with the same animals every day and get to know their individual personalities. You get to work behind the scenes at a zoo and get a front row seat to all the work they do in education, animal care, and conservation. Some zoos may even give keepers the opportunity to get directly involved in conservation work by working with animals that may later be released or by sending you to work with conservation organizations in the field for a few weeks here and there. Zookeeping is also challenging in ways you might not expect. As I already mentioned, it can be difficult to break into the field, so it may require you to move frequently from place to place for temporary jobs or internships, interspersed with periods where you are living at home and applying for jobs. It's a very physical job that requires long hours outside in the heat or freezing cold. It can be hard on your body, leading to injuries that can affect you your whole life. For this reason, many people stop being zookeepers in their 30s or 40s when it becomes too hard on their bodies. The pay is extremely low and hasn't changed much from the days when no college degree was required, sometimes being at or barely over minimum wage. Animals require care every day, including on weekends or holidays. Often zookeepers have a weekend on days like Tuesday and Wednesday and work through Saturday and Sunday and the rest of the week. They also often have to work on holidays. I hope this talk has helped you understand a little bit more about a career working with animals and in conservation. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you all the best as you progress on through middle school, high school, college, and beyond. Here I provided some QR codes, first to a handout I've made that provides more specific information and links to resources about careers in conservation and with animals. The second is to the contact form on the blog that I kept while I was doing my master's degree in London. You can use this form to contact me if you have questions, or you can click through to the blog section to read a little bit more about my experience getting my master's degree and about the research that I did while I was there. Good luck in your Science Olympiad careers and beyond!